Just get your Bud Light symbols on your
Yeah, Coors
grinder
Light.
holders.
Oh yeah, Bud Light's back, right? Bud Light's back, baby.
Bud Light's cooler. They're not cool again.
Did that guy die yet, or?
Well, they got that one cool for you.
Dark turn real quick.
They got Peyton Manning, so they're doing something, right?
Oh, that's great.
I think Peyton Manning's doing some
Oh, that's
advertising.
good.
So you know they're back, baby.
At least he's throwing balls. Just hold it.
I'm recording, but
Yeah, good. Can edit that out.
I don't think it picked it up. It's good. Here we go. Let's see. I got mine up. I'm gonna send my screen over to you guys so you can see mine. If you're logged in, here we go. You can move it wherever you want it out of the way.
That turned me up.
It does. I know when you're looking at my here's me. Just pretty handy because it's hard to see up at the board, so maybe it's easier to see in another monitor next to you. But have yours open and ready to go. This is where we left off, and so I'm answering everybody that is. Let's see. Last thing we did was join everything. So mine is all one continuous selection. It's all joined, and now I'm ready since it's symmetrical down the vertical center line, like my print said. I'm ready to mirror this over. So if I turn back on my construction work, that's what we did. That's all the construction work that I had. I really don't need that necessarily, but I'll show you how mirror works. I think one thing I'll do is I'll do fillet before I do that though. So I think I'll do the fillet work on these, and then when I mirror it over, all the fillet work will be done. And what I'm saying is all of those outside corners have a radius of 0.25 according to our print. So all of these external sharp corners. So I'll turn this off for a second. All these external corners, I just want them to have a fillet radius. So fillet is a weird command. It's not my favorite. It's kind of like the default with CAD is a little bit obnoxious, is what I always say. So like I select fillet. The opposite of fillet is just a chamfer, like kind of like a welding prep bevel edge chamfer. We can do equal leg or unequal leg chamfers. But fillet is what I want, just have kind of a round edge. It'll do internal fillets, kind of like an inside fillet corner, or it can do an outside rounded corner. So fillet kind of does both of those. It's kind of an inside outside feature. Ours are outside corners here, so it's just going to make a radius. So we choose fillet, and then what it says is, if I check in my command line, select first object to fillet, or it has some more custom commands available to us. What is annoying is that, and I'll show you, I don't think I've used the fillet command today when I've opened CAD, and generally it just kind of leads you into like just selecting stuff. And so it's not real, like if I did this, it'd be like, well, I want to fillet this. I'm just picking this. I don't have to start anywhere I could start on any corner is what I'm saying. I just zoomed into this one first. And I'm like, well, I want to fillet this. So I want to fillet this to this, right? Oh, and mine is showing up. So yours may or may not show up. I don't know what my radius was though, because I didn't put in any dimensional command. Usually the default, if you haven't used fillet, is just going to be 0, and it's going to look like it did nothing. So if you actually choose fillet and then choose your geometry, sometimes you don't see a change that happened, and maybe I have used fillet today, and so I have a radius that I put in. I don't know what it is. I'm going to undo it to actually go back to the square point, because what I like to remember with fillet is always specify a radius first. And so that's one of your options on your command line is radius, and so you can come down here and select it, or you could type in R for radius. But I just select radius. Mine is actually set at 1/4, and it's probably because I've used it last there. Your guys' gets wiped every night, and so it's probably back to default, which will probably say 0.
Well, I set it.
It was set at 1/4?
Is it because we did that other one on the top there?
Well, yeah, it could be. Yeah, did we do some? Yeah, it might be. Well, I don't know. We did this as a circle with a 1/2 inch, the 1/4 inch radius, so it's not really the same. I don't know. Maybe there's an update that now it's 1/4 inch. I don't know. But this is.
We did do 2 lines that met up and then filleted that. Would that do the same thing?
It would be. It would. Yeah. If you would have, that's a good point. If you wouldn't have done this in as a circle like I did by center, you could have figured out where this point went up and met this one. And then if you would have chose to fill those, it would have just rounded that off like this. Exactly right. Yeah. It would have done that. I would have chopped out all that plate here. Yep. Because what it's going to do is I normally have to remember to choose fillet, choose radius, make sure that it's the correct radius. Even no matter what, I always check my radius, even if I do have one loaded, because I don't always use the same radius over and over. So, and if then I would enter my data, that's 0.25. Mine was already there, so I could have just put enter, but 0.25 is what we want. Then we hit enter. Now it does have that fillet radius.
How do you do the radius? How do you figure it out?
It's just given. The only reason why we know what it is because on the sheet it says 12 times a radius of quarter inch. So if you count that up, that means every outside corner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Adjust that on.
How do I adjust that on the computer?
Yeah, if you did like a 1 inch radius.
Oh yeah, just put in radius, go to fillet, and then always select the radius. Then you just type 1, enter. That's a 1 inch radius. So I just remember like a kind of an order of operations thing with fillet is, and it's similar with chamfer, is that I just always remember whenever I select fillet, it's kind of this thing that I just memorized. I'm going to pick a radius because I just want to verify that it's for sure the radius that I want. And if I need to change it, this is where I change it, 0.25. It's going to remember the last one you use is kind of the one that auto loads. But I feel like if you had downloaded this on your computer and used it the first time, it may be default as 0 is what I'm pretty sure in my mind. And so that's one annoying thing about the fillet command is like generally it's 0 unless you enter a radius.
Yeah, you can make it work.
So I entered radius, and then now I can select my objects. This is the other thing that's a little bit annoying about fillet is I select it, and then it's like one and done, and I would have to go back in and select the command again. But there is a way. So this is my other thing that I don't love about fillet is it's just kind of like it does a one and done command by default. And generally, when I fillet stuff, it's kind of like this scenario where there's usually multiple parts I'm doing or multiple intersection points. So this one, I would have loved to have just if the command stayed active. And you can set it like that. So if I choose fillet this time around, fillet, sure, I'll check my radius because it's my normal thing that I want to check. It's quarter inch, that's great, that's what I want. And then if you'll notice your command line now says multiple as well. So this is the other thing. I wished it was by default, that it just did multiple, but it just by default it does one at a time. So if I select multiple here before I start clicking, now the command stays active. And so now I can come in here and say this one to this one, I want radius. And then it's just like an active command now. This one to this one, I want a radius. That one's already done, so I'm gonna come over here and fillet radius this. And like I said, the only reason why I'm doing this, like I said last time, the only reason why I'm doing this is because it's kind of a finished part and I'm okay to fillet radius this. If this was welded corners to something else, I would not radius this part necessarily. I might keep a sharp corner so that as I'm fitting stuff up, I can see the corner to corner lineup. It's pretty critical for us as welders that we, when we're fitting parts, we don't like the parts to be radius that are going to be a weld joint generally. So I would like to, it helps me align things when I can see their point to point lineup from part to part. So I always say that because, I've seen welders go to town and they grab their parts off a pallet. Like you're building, if you worked in a manufacturing shop, you might be delivered a pallet of parts. And then you start prepping your parts and you start rounding all the corners of everything. And then you go to fit stuff up. You're like, dang it, I wish I wouldn't have rounded all my corners. Yeah, don't do that until the end. Kind of decide what is truly left as an outside corner that might be a potential injury point, and then maybe you round those off. And anyway, so that's my 2 cents of advice. So now this is done. It's still all single line selection. I can do the mirror command now. So like the mirror command is just a modify command. Mirror creates a mirror copy of selected objects. So I'm going to mirror first, and then I'm going to say this is the geometry. It goes electric blue, means it's highlighted. So then I can hit enter. That's the only thing I'm going to mirror is just that geometry. So then I can just hit enter or, And then it says it wants to know the first point of a mirror line. So what it wants to know is you're kind of establishing a mirror plane of where this, it's a mirror line or a mirror plane is how I visualize it in my mind, is that I'm going to establish the plane that I'm mirroring across. So you can do that here. These 2 points, these 2 endpoints line up with each other. And you really don't need any geometry necessarily to snap to. I mean, I am snapping to geometry. I guess you would need some kind of, what I'm saying, I guess what I should say is, I'll back up and say, you kind of do need some geometry to align to. So I could have my construction layer on, and it has like a center, it has the center line that I could use. And I don't actually have to select the geometry that I'm mirroring. I could select this as my mirror plane. There's 1 point. I've left clicked 1 point. And then I'm like bringing this thing down. It just wants another point to create a line or a plane of where you're mirroring across. So it doesn't really need to be a grip or anything. It's just as long as I'm like straight up and down. And then it always gives you this. So I've left clicked there, and then I've left clicked there. So I've got this straight line that I'm mirroring across. It'll always say erase the source object. Default is no, which is I don't want to. So I can just hit enter. No, I don't want to. And that's all you've done. You've mirrored it. So now technically I have 2 different parts here. or two different pieces of geometry, a left and a right, essentially. So I could join those now. And that's what I'm going to do next. So, but I didn't necessarily have to have the construction layer on. I could have said mirror this thing, mirror this geometry. That's all I want to mirror, enter. This is one of the endpoints that I want to mirror across. And then I could just like drag this down and be like, oh yeah, just perfectly horizontal. So I don't really have to have another piece of geometry is what I'm saying. Bam, that would work. So then I'll just do, this would totally be machine cut. It would be just fine, but I can just join them. The last thing is join was under, it's like a modified, it's like the sub menu of the modify palette is join. So I'll click join. I'm just going to join this to this. I'm just going to hit enter. And if it joined as one single selection, that means all your point to points line up and there's no breaks in them. If it doesn't, then I have to kind of zoom in on where it didn't join and kind of try to figure out, is there some disconnected geometry or something? But this is how I feel like, this is how I sleep good at night is what I'd say, knowing that my geometry is joined. The laser, the plasma should be able to interpret that and have no problems cutting that. So yeah, that's good. And then, okay, so then we need just the rectangle to slip over the the pipe stand. So I think on the print, we've got some dimensions for it. Yep, right here. So you could draw this with a rectangle. I'll show you one way of just drawing geometry and then moving it into place. But you could actually totally come in here, like cursor up here. You could draw some construction work to get you up to this point because I think I'm given 2 and 15/16, 9/375 up, and then it's 7/16 or 4/375 up and over 3 and a 16th. What I told everybody last is I don't know how well this will fit over our pipe stands. Our pipe stands I think measure 3 by 3/8. And so I'm only giving ourselves a 16th of clearance, kind of, or a 32nd of clearance all the way around. I hope it's enough. We'll see. If it was a thick part, maybe not. If the curve slightly angled and you cut thick parts, sometimes you have to be a little more sloppy with your tolerance. Ours is only 10 gauge, so I'm anticipating that a 16th or 32nd all the way around is sufficient to slip over our pipe stand. That's just my guess of the tolerance here. So I'm guessing just a 16th bigger than actual size. Okay, so then, yeah, you could totally piece this together with a line, but I'll just show you. Sometimes this is another way I'll draw, is I'll just create the geometry and then move it into place where I want it. And so, and not that this is a better way or it's just another way. So I'm going to turn on my construction layer. And then I'm drawing on my visible object layer, though. And I'm drawing a rectangle. So I'm going to pick rectangle command here. A rectangle command just wants the two kind of kitty corner points of the rectangle. I'm just going to draw it like clear over here. Here's the rectangle that I want to draw. It's 3.0625, 3 and a 16th tab to get to the other dialog box. Because the rectangle has two different dimensions, length and kind of width there. And then by 0.4375. So there's my piece of geometry. I just need to like put it over here. So I can just use the move command to move it over there. Maybe I need to have something to align it to. So maybe I will make the geometry, the grips that it have are going to be midpoints and endpoints here. So maybe I'll go to my construction layer real quick. I'm going to draw a line over line. I kind of do this on my construction layer at times, but I think on our print it says it comes up here like 2 and 9/375, 2 and 15/16 up to the bottom of the rectangle. So I just drew this line over line. Usually I'll break my rule about that when I'm on the construction layer because it doesn't matter. It's not going to plot or print. I'm probably going to delete that on the machine file anyway. But there's my line that has an endpoint grip now. Cool. So I can say, let's move this thing, move my rectangle. And so I select, my order of operations. You can get by like this. You can also select your geometry and then say move, and then it'll ask you like specify the base point to move. And that's fine. Sometimes I'll do that. But if I can remember the order of operations, because some commands it matters and some commands it really doesn't. But move is one of those ones that doesn't totally matter. But I try to remember like choose a command, choose what to do with it. Select objects, it says. That's my object. Once I've selected everything that I want to move, which is just this, I can just hit enter. And then the next point of the command is, well, where do you want to move it by? And I'm going to look for this like centered grip here, because essentially the construction material that I drew is like to the bottom of it and centered even. So I'm going to move it by this grip. So when I move geometry, sometimes I'm doing it strategically by which point, because I could pick any point on this thing to move it by. That's the geometric center that's showing up. That little whisker center mark, that's only showing up if you have geometric center OSNAP turned on. And right, whatever grips will show up is only if you've got them selected on your status. If they're not selected, so if you think there's some geometry, it should have, or if you think there's a grip that should show up on the geometry, it's probably just that it's not selected from the O snap menu there. And like I think I said early on, I generally keep a lot of my O snaps on. The only time I'll toggle them off is when I have a lot of geometry in a real tight area, and it's hard to actually get the snap that I want to. But there's another, I can actually get to that easy too, but that's next level, so we don't need to worry about it. So we'll stay on this level. So essentially, I'm going to pick this triangular midpoint, and I'm just going to move this by. You can see it shows you where you're coming from and where you're going to. I'm looking for that endpoint grip right there. So, I just show that because there's a lot of times when I just draw geometry and then I move it over to where I want it. But I could have drawn it here as well. Like I could have been carefully drawn it in the right place. What I did is carefully draw the right size, then I moved it over with some construction material. So now this thing is a done deal. That is a closed profile essentially. This is now a joined profile, and so this thing is ready for customization at all. And so now I can talk about that. I think before I do, I'm just going to talk about how I would actually convert this to the file type. And so let me just talk through why I would even do this. And it's just because the plasma only needs minimal data to cut. Really, it just needs those lines only. It doesn't need a bunch of these layers that are on here at all. So, so sometimes what we'll do in the industry is just make a DXF file as simple as we can make it. And we can't delete everything that's on here other than just those lines. Sometimes some of the layers are dependent on each other and they won't let me delete them. Sometimes it's because I have a layout sheet. I have paper layout here that has some line types on it, and it won't let me delete stuff if I'm using that line type and those layers. It just won't let me delete those layers. So, but I think the CAD program doesn't want you to totally delete all your layers. If I deleted these layouts, I should say, if I deleted these layouts, which are paper layouts, I think it'll just populate a new one, and so it's going to give me some layouts whether I want them or not. And technically, a DXF file doesn't need any layouts. But it's not the end of the world, so it's fine. I'm just going to leave my layouts and their work that's on them, which you probably have these layouts as well. And we are a DWG file. So what I would do is I would like save my file now. I'd be like, well, I've done all the main, the main stand work. So I'm just going to save it. And I'm going to do one thing though. Now I'm going to create a new file type. So this one's all saved. My DWG file with all of the layers and all the data is saved. I'm going to go ahead and do like a save as with a new file type because technically your plasma cutter and most will still let a DWG come in, and then you can deselect everything that you don't want it to cut. So it's like Flash Cut will help you. It'll walk you through. Hey, I recognize you brought in a DWG file. It'll let you like select what's going to get cut, and so you can do all that at the machine input. But I can kind of like speed up my time, and most people, if you're ever sharing files with them, like say that you were doing the drawing and you were outsourcing somebody to cut your stuff for you, they'd probably ask you to send them a DXF file. This is the most common type of file they'd want you to send. So we have those DWTs are my template files where I don't do much modeling. I just do a lot of front loading and formatting of my space. And then those templates, I leave them as like these master template files, DWT files. Then I create drawings from those. So if I open a template file, I'll save it as a DWG file to do all my modeling and line work and layering and making my prints and my sheets if I have to. Then I save that file. And then this next step is where I'd be like, if I'm going to send somebody a DXF file, I'm just going to simplify it for them. For one thing, it helps this. When you're sharing files with other people, it's helpful for them to have only the information they need. They don't need all this other data. Sometimes it's proprietary, or sometimes it's some of your intellectual property that you don't want to share. You just want them to have the part stuff, and you don't want them to know all the details from your DWG file. So sometimes it's proprietary knowledge I'm preserving, and mostly, but most common, it's just that I'm just going to send somebody the smallest file because if they're really big drawing files, sometimes I can't email them to other people, right? It'll be too big of a file to send. So then I'll have to open up a OneDrive or do a cloud share technique or something. But if I'm just trying to email somebody the simplest and keep track of my own intellectual property, maybe I'll just send them what they need to know. So this is what I'm going to do now is convert this thing to a DXF. So what I do is I'm just going to go save as, I think, or I can come up here to this A. This A gives you kind of like your export and your import and your printing stuff that you can do with your drawing. But I think as an export file, a DXF maybe is not one of my options. I thought it was, but it's a DWF. I'm looking for DXF, so maybe I'm not going to use this. Maybe I'm going to do a save as. Yeah, I think there's other formats as the DXF right there. So I feel like it's actually under the save as. So you can get to it in multiple ways. I can get to it as just a new save as. And what I'm going to do is it's probably going to only, it's already, because it's a DWG file, it's looking to just save itself as another DWG file with a different name. I'm going to say, no, I'm going to go ahead and keep the same name. I'm just going to drop down this menu. And these are like preloaded, because I'm saving in CAD. These are like CAD's formats that are available in this particular version. It'll allow me to save it into old drawing formats. You can see that the first one is like a 2018 drawing file and 2013 and 10s. LT is just another version of AutoCAD. It's the cheapest version you can get actually. And then you come clear down here, and then here is a DXF. There's only the only thing I have available. Oh no, I have older versions of DXF files that I can save to. The reason why this is because going back to what I initially said when we in our first class is that if you're sharing files with someone but they have an older version of CAD, so old versions of CAD, they're incompatible with drawings that have been created with newer versions. They just cannot open them. It's like that's the way they get you to buy a new updated program is that your old versions will not allow new versions. If I've drawn in 2025 and the person I'm sending this to, their plasma cutter still just reads 2007 DXF files as their newest edition they have. Well, then I have to remember to save this so that their machine can interpret it. So that's why you get a laundry list here of like old program formats that I can save in it. It's really for the shareability of your file. And it's because AutoCAD it's just not back convertible. But a new version of CAD can open up old file types. So if it was the reverse situation where somebody was sending you a 2007 DXF and I had 2025 CAD on my computer, I could easily open it. And usually you get a prompt when you open those old files. Hey, I'm going to convert it up to the newest version. And so it's always shareable that way, but not shareable from new to old. So if I have that situation, I can always choose to save my file as an older file. Here is what's going on. And really, I'm just going to choose the 2018 DXF because our plasma read that when I tested it just fine. So I'm going to say it's a DXF file. DXF files they have a different icon. They're red and white, kind of like the template files are, and they say DXF. So I'm just going to save this one here. I have a couple DXFs on I'm saving everything on my desktop, which is what I encourage you to do, just because that's a fast way to find it, email it to yourself. So it's just going to be my same name with whatever my drawing name is, but it's going to be a DXF file type. So I'm going to say save. And then what I have is now that's the one that's open, right? Like my other one is on my desktop, my DWG file. This totally saved. So DXF is what I've got up top here. Now I can go to town simplifying the heck out of this drawing. It's like I don't need the construction work. There's a lot of things I don't need here. So what I delete is, in order to delete stuff, it's just kind of simple. I'm going to go to my visible layer. It's like that's definitely where I'm keeping stuff. And then I can just go start deleting stuff. So I'm going to go to my visible layer, and then I'm just going to turn it off. If you turn off a layer that you're on, you always get this prompt. Hey, you're going to turn the layer off. You're not going to be able to see the layer that you're on. I'm going to say, okay, go ahead and turn it off. It just means that if you, the reason why it gives you that prompt is because if you start drawing here now, if I actually was starting to draw out here, it doesn't look, it's like, what the heck, I'm not doing anything. No, actually your layer's turned off, the light bulb, and everything I did was actually drawing. So this is kind of annoying. You can kind of go to town drawing thinking, and you don't know why it's disappeared. Could be just that you've got the layer turned off, but yet it's still, because it's not frozen, it still is like keeping track of what you're doing on that layer. So I don't want to do that, but I just want to show you. So that's easy to do if you're not just paying attention to what's on and off. And it's why when you go to turn off a layer that you're on, you get this like dialogue saying, hey, you probably want to be careful there. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna delete this construction line work. I don't want any of it in my DXF file. This is on my DXF file I'm modifying, right? Not my DWG. So I'm deleting that stuff. That was the only other kind of lines. We have this stuff going on too. I haven't talked about this because that's the next step really, but on my DXF files, I would get rid of this stuff too. Yeah, because it's stuff. So I'm going to delete this stuff up. So I'll delete it. once I delete the drawing information that's on that layer, I can usually actually also delete the layer. Because if I even go to plug this DXF file into our plasma cutter, it's gonna recognize all these different layers that are here. Even though there's nothing on them, it's gonna be like you, and you can unselect them there too, but I can also simplify how many layers I have to turn off at the machine input if I just bring up my layers property. And then you can start deleting some of these layers. The one that we have all of our work on is visible object. I'm going to be able to delete any layer that I don't have stuff on. But of course, we do have some drawing stuff on our actual papers, not that you've drawn, but that I've put on there because it's kind of a template file. So it's not going to let me to do all these layers, but I'll just do whatever it will let me do. So I'm going to say the XREFs, I should be able to delete this. How you delete layers are you just highlight them, and then it's this little X. I mean, it's really buried. I love how they use these like micro icons, like as if everybody has really good eyesight. But technically, that's really small. Whatever you select, this is how you add layers. Is actually this kind of the light bulb one, or no, it's actually the check mark one. Is how I would add new layers. But I'm going to delete some layers that I can. I'm going to delete my XREF layer. It'll delete it like just like that, as long as there's no line work that's associated with it. So keep my visible line work. Viewports, it's probably not going to let you delete because we have some viewports on our layouts always, no matter if I have a layout that I'm using or not. Let me see if I can delete it. It says, oh, I can't delete it because you've got some stuff on that. So that's okay. Just skip that layer. Titles, probably not going to let me delete. I probably have some title information over there. Oh, no, I did. I didn't really have anything on the title layer. Text layer, it probably won't let me delete this one. Yeah, it says that I've got some text on my drawing sheet. That's okay. Stitch, I bet you I've got nothing on the stitch layer, so I can get rid of it. Section layer, we didn't do any sectioning. That should go. Plane layer, we didn't do any cutting plane lines, so that can go. Phantom layers, nope. Paper layer, I don't think we did anything here. Nope. Hidden line work, none of our part has hidden line work. Dimensions, I think the dimension layer can go, yeah. Def points is just an auto-loaded layer. I don't even create this. CAD automatically creates this, so that one you can't delete. Cutout would only delete if you deleted the reason I had to cut out 1 and 2 layer was for that imagery that I just deleted, so now I think I can delete those too. Construction 2, I don't think I had anything on construction 2. Even my main construction layer I can probably get rid of. Yep. Chain layer we didn't do. Center layer, nothing on it. Break short, I don't think we have any break short lines or break long. I think we have some border sheet layers. This one will give you an error because those blue border sheet layers on it. So I think the rest has to stay. Zero layer always stays. It's just kind of the default layer. So I don't think it'll let you delete that one either. But so what I've done is I've just drastically simplified my drawing file. So it's a smaller file type for sure. Like I said, sometimes drawings are hundreds of layers, so I can usually go through and mass select a lot of these and delete them, and really simplify my file. It's only got, so it doesn't look like I have anything anymore, but if I turn on my visible object, there it is. There's my DXF file. So I would just save this as my DXF file. It's like as simplified as I can get it. I'll get rid of this too because you guys aren't seeing that. But. So if I just hit save here, it might give you, I think that's fine. Yeah, it saved my DXF. And then I can close this. So you can leave this. I just want to show you how you maximize your like your DWG into a DXF for machine cutting. That's as simple as I can get it probably at this point. And so that would be good. I'm going to go ahead and go back and open up my DWG file. So I'm going to go ahead and like X this one out. And I think when you close this, you might get this command every time. It recognizes that it's a DXF, and for whatever reason, AutoCAD throws this default in too that says, do you want me to save as a DWG file? And it's like, no, actually I don't, because I strategically created a DXF file. I want to keep it as a DXF file. So I just say no, don't save this. What this is asking is, say, anytime you go to close a DXF file, you get this dialog box. Like it always wants to, for whatever reason, default to a DWG. And if you hit yes, it's going to turn your DXF to a DWG, and then you have to remember to kind of convert it again. So if I just say no, that's my DXF file now. This should be on my hard. I think this is the one I've just done. And my DXF is right here, actually. So these are my two. This is my drawing that I created my DXF from, and there's my DXF. This is what I'm definitely going to like. What I'm going to ask you to do is after you've done your customizations and you're happy with your design, if you go back through your emails from me, there should be one where I invited you to, I shared like a folder with you. And that's where I want you to drag and drop your DXF files into that shared folder, because then I can access that folder and I can do some, like between Marcus and I, we might pull these up in Flash Cut and just kind of see if it's coming, cross correct. And like I said, because we're kind of teaching this a little different than they taught last year and stuff. And so we're just going to give us a couple weeks, I think, to start getting your parts cut. At least by the week after Thanksgiving, we should be able to start cutting. But we just want to verify that everybody's designs are done. And group one's designs are probably closer to being done. I think Chuck had his. Chuck does a lot more CAD work, but we did find that he had some errors in what he'd drawn. So we had to go back and do some fixing. I'm sure he's ready to cut his. He might be the guinea pig that I use just to make sure that he can share it to my folder, and then we can maybe using Marcus's flash cut, we can nest, and we'll experiment with that through the end of the week here. Having Chuck dump his into our shared folder and see if you can nest. Maybe and I'll dump mine in there too. So maybe mine and Chuck's first, maybe, or if Marcus has one ready too. I just do a couple. We'll nest up a couple and see if we can get it cut, and then we'll be ready for all you guys. Because what I'm saying is, you guys might want to spend some time customizing this, and I'll show you how labor intensive this is in just a minute. But what I've got right now is my DXF file and my drawing file. I'm going to reopen my drawing file. So now I'm back to my drawing file with all my layers, my master control center here. Because now we're going to talk about graphic art and the difficulty of graphic art. Really, it's like this isn't my expertise either. So that's why I'm not a graphic designer. But what I've done is I've copied our Benny the Bangle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off, and you have this layout too. What I have is like cutout 1 and cutout 2 layers. If I turn them off, you can just see. You can see that all I've done is I've applied hatching. What I've done is I've drawn, and I didn't really show this to the last group either, but sometimes I will use this hatching command. If I just, maybe I'll pick a different, if I come over here to this ISU logo, and how hatching works is, it works by whatever layer you're on too. So if I'm on construction layer 5, it'll go blue, whatever I do. But a hatch command works like this. If I just click it, it kind of takes over your ribbon menu, which is really common. A lot of these more complicated commands, they kind of change your ribbon menu. And so this one has changed on me. And so this is how I like as a drafter, we section stuff a lot so that we can view the internal components of stuff. And so when we section through material, and you know this from blueprint reading, we will apply like a hatching to it, usually dependent on its material type and its properties. But you can just do like a solid hatch. Like I can drop down the whole list here and expand this to see. There's a lot of, these are just CAD loaded hatching that's available. All I've done on my cut 1 and 2 layers is chose like a solid hatch. And then I've picked, in order to do that, you have to have like a closed polygon, right? It won't be able to hatch something that's an open shape. It has to be a closed shape. And it's blue like this because I'm on the construction layer. But that essentially what I'm doing is applying a hatching. I do this sometimes when I'm just like troubleshooting my graphic design every once in a while, because it can be hard to pick what gets cut out and what stays. I feel like that's the trick with anytime you want to do custom geometry or whatever, visualizing what stays and what goes is part of the whole game of why people are better at this than others. And so I'm not going to necessarily hatch. I just want to show you. If I did select this and I said close hatch, then it goes back to my normal ribbon menu, and that's been hatched there on that layer. So. What I've done is strategically done that here, because what I did is I traced these all out. So, and I can't say I've even all joined these yet. You can tell I haven't done all of my due diligence to join all this. I thought I had actually. So this is lazy work on me. Like really, this part of this should be like a closed, like a joined polygon. Really would be ideally, and same with all these. So I thought I did it one time, join them all, made sure they all were connected point to point. That's pretty critical. I want some of these to be joined polygons. So now that if you've shared my file, I'll see that I've shared my file with you, so I can see that I didn't totally. Oh, see, I did this side, I guess. But really, what these are is the same image traced over, right? Like these are I've traced the same image. In fact, I've just made a copy of the image, and then I was looking at it saying, well, if this thing gets copied and placed over here, let me turn off the construction. Yeah, turn it off. If it gets copied and placed over here, then I have to visualize that this is all kept material, right? This is all actual material. It's gonna be metal. So then if I drop this on here and I cut it, well, this is gonna cut this outer profile, and it's just gonna drop out an outer profile of a Bengal tiger. It's gonna be horrible. It's just gonna be this would be a total dropout. So I have to start breaking up the geometry in order for stuff to stay and stuff to be cut out. And so what I'm showing here is that you can see I've modified this one, and I've actually joined some of the space together so that if this is all metal and it's kept material, And I've had to actually break into these profiles so when I originally trace it, it's like this. I've brought in an image and I've totally traced it. And then I've joined it all. And then I've decided and then at this stage, I'm deciding what is keeping and what is going. Should I stay or should I go concept here? And so I turn on the Clash, grab yourself a Bud Light. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to get there in just a minute because this is a little tedious to draw this. I'll show you that CAD is a little bit slow at this. Flash Cut maybe has some program availability to do this faster, to silhouette stuff. So sometimes the software that cutting equipment comes with it can fast track some of the graphic design elements, whereas CAD is really pretty manual for me to do. But I'll show you my manual CAD ways. What I'm going to show you here, because you will be able to get this program potentially and be able to draw with it, and you don't have Flash Cut, ideally, probably not. So this is something you could do at home if you downloaded this while you're a student. So what I would do is I've come back in here and broke up the geometry. And that's probably actually why these aren't joined again yet, is because I've actually taken the time to like cut out, decide how I want it to like, maybe I think I kept this little image and I slipped it in through here and created a space. I kind of just looked for natural flow in my design. I looked for like some natural flow points where I could kind of break the geometry up. So you can see that I tried to kind of work that in to where now if I can visualize this, this is all metal. This is all going to be metal through here. This is all going to be metal through here. This is all going to be kept as metal. These are going to be cutouts right here. This is going to be a cutout. I've never cut this design yet. I actually made a jack-o'-lantern. I do say that. I did use this for my pumpkin carving this year, actually. So I have a Benny the Bangle. So it did look pretty good too. So I feel like it'll cut out of metal okay too. So and there wasn't any errors. This size of this, I actually brought it in to Flash Cut already, and it actually didn't have any errors, I don't think. And the errors we can talk about it when we get there. But it's just that your plasma cutter, in order to cut through materials, it has to have a kerf width allowance, right? It has to have enough material to cut these fine details. If your shape and your size is like smaller than the kerf cut, well, then it can't cut that. It's just like I won't even try to cut that because I don't have enough like kerf allowance. Because that's the other thing, your machine is really smart in that it knows what an internal and an outside profile is. So your machine, if I just go back to what we've drawn here, you have both going on. You have outside profile work and you have inside profile work. The machine knows that I need to come in here to this line and cut to the inside of it. It recognizes this as an internal cut. So it'll with the kerf allowance, what sets the kerf on a machine is generally the material thickness. Based on the material thickness, it's a program thing, right? Like in the machine, you always got to choose the material thickness. Then it has its like kerf allowance and everything already programmed into it, to where it knows to step away from this line so far in order to leave the line, just like you would with with your hand cut flame torch. You're going to cut to the inside of this line. It's just that the plasma and the lasers are going to be able to get much closer to that line and hopefully ideally leave you way less grinding than you would yourself, maybe.
We're not going to test tomorrow.
You guys are not ready, is what it sounds like. That's a slam. You guys aren't ready. So then when the machine looks at these lines, it's going to know to push that curve to the outside here and cut the outer profile of this. So the machine knows it's looking for this kind of data. It's looking for like internal and outside profiles. And so it'll do the same thing when it has this geometry. It'll be like, oh, I see that this is an inside, like closed geometry. I'm going to cut this to the inside. And I'm going to cut this to the inside. And then it knows, these are actually all inside cuts geometry is what this ends up being. And why I'm telling you that is because if you choose to do some custom graphics, sometimes, and that's what Chuck needed to modify, is he traced some geometry that was just too small to be cut on 10 gauge. And so he's going to have to go and widen that up so that there's enough curve to cut. But that was all it was we checked it. It's like, nope, it won't cut that because it just can't interpret it. There's not enough room to cut it. So this size of this it had no errors in it. The only thing I'd want to do is join this. So if you were on mine and you were going to use this one, I would use. I'm going to choke for a minute. I would actually do my join command and go through and join that with this, with this. Oh, there's one more piece up here. I'm going to hit enter. I'm gonna check that it joins. See, this one did not join. This is actually a good little error that could happen when you do your own graphics. Some of this joined and some of it not. So what I do is I come into this point where where I have an error going on here. I'm gonna like zoom way in. And it looks like to me, like, I don't know, I've got some misalignment potential here. When you zoom way in this close, it gets a little laggy. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull this grip away. I'm actually gonna create, sorry, it's gonna be a little laggy. I'm gonna create a visible gap here. I'm gonna drag this together now. I'm gonna try to get that to line up and snap. So all I did was grab, when you grab a blue grip, it becomes a hot grip, and I actually pulled that. Hook that together. And I'm gonna try to join this again to see if that will join. Join this to this. Hit enter. It looks like that was the only place. I could have picked the upper one. I don't know if I'm gonna recover from whatever is going on with my throat. Probably getting sick. I just picked this one first. It looked like I could have picked a point up here that didn't look like they were joining either. So I didn't know. I just randomly picked the first one that didn't look like it joined. And I might have that same issue here, but I could have had an error in this corner too, potentially. Where those joined and they didn't join, or, when I tried to join them and they didn't, just go explore those points, maybe pull them together. That's kind of a micro pull. It definitely throws off the cement. I have to be careful on a real design, or if I'm doing real careful work, that I don't pull something out of alignment and cause it to be like not symmetrical on real graphics. But I know that we're pretty new at this. I don't feel like whatever I did there is going to be noticeable that this side doesn't match this side. But just be careful when you're pulling grips. It's like I don't normally do it, especially on things that I'm really cutting. I do try to make sure that I would turn on my construction layer and see where I went wrong and see if I could fix it. So, but anyway, it looks to me like I have a few things to fix here. Like that one's joined now, that one's joined, this is joined. This is not all joined, so I could check this real quick while I'm with you, because if you want to use this image, you're more than welcome to. There just might be some corrections I have to do. Like it looks like all this hasn't been joined. I'll see if that all joined pretty easily though, so that's good. I use this one, that one's already joined as the nose. The nose is joined, the mouth is joined. I think this one is not joined though, so let me try this one, see if it's got an error. I'm only showing you this because if you're going to draw your own, you're going to probably fall into this problem as well. So that one actually joined. All I did was just need to select it and join it. I anticipate that this one won't. Like this one has probably got an error here as well. This piece here. This is the last piece I need to join. Let me see. Actually, it worked better here. It's probably when I mirrored it across, they didn't quite align for some reason. Actually, I did pull those ones together. Now this thing is kind of a joined. All the polygons that are associated with this face are joined. And then I just did some exploration. So I'm going to turn back on these cutouts. And these are me exploring like what's cutting and what's staying. So on this particular imagery, I'm looking and saying, well, these could be cut and drop out, but maybe I like the face better, cut and drop out this one was my option. And I think I created this layer just to almost give myself the metal behind it or whatever. So I'm looking at the black as what's cutting and dropping out, and the white is what will stay in my pattern. And so these are kind of just like negatives and positive each other. That's what I think of that too, is I'm just kind of like, well, one of them is like I kept that parts, the other one I've left them. And so, when I get to after I've traced over my design and I'm really trying to figure out what to link together or not, this is where I really start analyzing that. And then I can decide, oh, that's not what I want it to look like. I'll join it this way. And so this was the difference between, one way or the other. And they will look drastically different when they're cut, obviously. I mean, you can see they look drastically different just like this. So this is a good way for me to check. And so now let's talk about how I even trace something like that, because it's a little bit labor intensive, right? So what I do is we just want to bring in some imagery to this. I'll just show you like the down and dirty, easy way to bring in an image. So if I wanted to go to, so this is in my DWG file. This is stuff that I'd like to. This is my DWG file. I'd always like to have this stuff left in it too. So my imagery that I might trace, I would leave in my DWG file. Sometimes when I bring that stuff in, I bring it into layer 0. Like that layer 0 is a good place to dump like imagery in, and other things we'll use layer 0 for. But it's just kind of like this, like a default layer reference material sometimes. I'm just gonna open up a web browser. You could use Google Chrome or whatever's on your desktop. I'm gonna look for some imagery And so obviously I'm listening to Life with John Mayer on my Sirius XM. But if I wanted to look for, I think what I brought in the last time was a Steal Your Face. I'm a big Grateful Dead fan. Steal Your Face logo. So a lot of times you can just come to just and look for images, just like search, like Google search images. So this is actually a Steal Your Face logo. All I'm gonna do is like steal it. I'm gonna actually steal the Steal Your Face. So there's an image. What you don't know? So I'm just gonna like copy this. Like I could maybe choose to copy this image. I'm just a right click and copy image. I could choose to do a snip of this image too, like a snip. You always have like a snipping tool on your computer. Mine's loaded, but a snipping tool is just like how I sometimes would save imagery. SNI snipping tools, how I do like a screenshot, screen grab maybe. Brings up this little dialog box. It's kind of like drawing in a way, right? I can just take a screenshot of this. Oh, let me do a new one. It's like drawing with CAD. I could like do a click and hold grab like this. And then I would have this image. Sometimes it's easier to sometimes bring it. I don't like the Etsy across the front though. That's gonna be bad. So let's see if I can get it without the Etsy. Yeah, that's good. So sometimes I can just pull it from here. I don't know if I would have copied that if it would have come through right, but this is definitely going to come through. Just snip it. A lot of times I will save my imagery though, so I don't lose it, right? Like I can bring this in from just a kind of a right click copy from my snipping tool as well, just like I could there. I'll try both to see how they come in because you have to experiment with this a little bit too. But I'm just going to do a copy from some graphic online. I'm going to go into CAD, and you can just paste like you could with like a Control V is how you would paste in a Word document, or I think in a Google Doc works that way. But I think if you just go Control V, it's like there it is. That's like the down and dirty. It wants to know where you want to put this, and I just put it there. I just put wherever it's selected. So let me do that again. Just delete it real quick. But that's just me like Control V. I think you could even like right click. It brings up this menu. And I think we can paste from here, maybe. Maybe I don't have it loaded. But there's a bunch of different ways to bring in imagery. I'm just trying to show maybe the quickest, easiest is to maybe make it. There's my copy, bring in here, Control V, hold down Control, hit V. This shows me how big it is. You can tell it's huge. You never know what size the imagery will be coming offline. You just don't know. So this is like just its default size coming into mine. It's way too big, so that's fine. I actually like to trace things kind of big, actually, like this. Actually, maybe not this big. So I could size this down a little bit, so it's a little bit closer. But I generally will trace stuff when it's bigger. Maybe it's easier to trace big than it is on something if I bring in and size it the correct size first, and then I have to trace it, and it's all really small work. Sometimes for me, it's just easier to trace large imagery, and so. But if you do bring something in and you recognize it's way too big, I mean, it could be this big and just be huge, right? And so what we need to do is modify it with the scale command. And so, and of course, mine came in on whatever layer you were off. And when you copy paste like that, this is on the 0 layer. So if I turn off the 0 layer, my image goes away, right? Turn it off. So it'll come in on whatever layer you had active when you pasted it in here. If it's too big or too small, some imagery can come in way too small and you want to scale it before you trace it. Well, what we're doing is we're scaling that. So the scale command is right here. And if you choose scale, it's kind of like an order of operations thing. I think of choose the command, and then it's going to ask you, what do you want to scale? Well, I want to scale this imagery, which is just a single picture. So I select just that and I hit enter. And it's going to ask, like, it's pretty common with move, copy, scale, mirror. It's going to kind of want to know always it wants to know these base points that you're scaling from. And it really doesn't matter in a lot of cases. Here I might just choose the midpoint on the bottom. And then what I have is it's going to scale this thing. And you can do it by the scale factors. What's showing up here is the scale factor. I can kind of decrease it by half. If I enter like 0.5, it's going to scale that thing half that size. I could scale this again, scale this thing from this base point. You can kind of see the border. It's hard to see because the border that it shows you is white and my image is white. But this can give you an idea of how big you're scaling. Sometimes you just pull it to a new size. I'm still way big. That's okay. This might be about where I would start. I can just leave it out here in space. It doesn't even matter where I place it either, right? So how we trace imagery is what's painstaking, and this is why, yeah. I told the last group, if you're a Bud Light drinker, I only say this if you're over, I do not condone underage drinking ever. Sometimes you need something. If you get a Coke or even a Dr. Pepper and you're bored, put on your favorite show. I sit here and we'll trace imagery sometimes. And so how I trace imagery, I usually like to pick a line color that's going to be different than my colors that I have. I'm not going to trace this in black. I won't be able to see it. I'm not going to trace in white. I won't be able to see it. So sometimes I'll have to create a new layer that's a contrasting color. Right now I have two construction layers that I already gave you here. One of them's blue, one of them's pink. Pink is going to work really well or blue, even this color blue would work really good. But I think I'll just use my pink layer. And then I'll show you how polyline works. So polyline just does what it says. It's a more complex line. It can do arcs and curves. And so I'm going to choose my polyline command. So I trace all of my imagery with polylines. For one, if I can get them all connected together, they will be a joined polygon, which is good. Like the lines were always segmented, right? And they were kind of like not joined geometry. A polyline from point to point to point, and whenever I finish off like a polygon shape of sorts, it will be a closed, like happy and ready for like a piece of cutting equipment. So polyline already kind of closes itself. And it wants to know where to start. Like its command line says, just like a line, like specify where to start. So I'm going to like zoom in on this imagery. I think I'll start tracing some of these teeth first here. So, well, this is pretty normal with imagery. It's going to go really pixelated on you. But what I do is I'll just try to I'll target like somewhere in the pixels here where I'm going to trace like this tooth and this one. So I'm just going to create a nice like clean line for my machine to cut out of these. So what you do is I'm going to pick a point anywhere to start. You'll get better at this the more you do this. At first, this is really awkward and it's kind of hard to control. But I use polyline also because if your imagery is really just like cutting straight lines, that's pretty easy. You can just trace with lines. Like for me to do the lightning bolt, it's going to be really fast because it's just like straight line segments. I'll still use the polyline command, but I don't have to make arcs or anything. So polyline, maybe I'll start this one here. This is kind of a straight segment, so maybe I'll start this tooth right here, somewhere out here in the pixel land. And to me, I'm like, well, my image is kind of straight to here, and then it's going to arc around this way. Well, now that I've started drawing a polyline, your command line is way more robust with a polyline than it is a regular line. You can choose to turn this geometry into an arc, or into other things. But usually what I do with my imagery is I'll choose arc. And then it gets really more complicated. Arcs are complicated in general. There's a lot of different ways I can draw arcs by angles, centers, close. So it's really like it kind of matches the drop down on an arc command is a pretty detailed type of command. So I choose to use the second point a lot. It's kind of my go-to. I will choose like second point. And then what it wants to know is kind of the midpoint of an arc. So if I view this imagery, it's kind of like domed like this, kind of goes over here and then turns back this way. So because I'm in the second point, it's kind of like the midpoint of the arc is what I think of it. So I would say, oh, my arc kind of is the midpoint's here, and then see, it's kind of like, then it kind of goes like this. And then I would click here, and then it's like, now I'm back in the line command, or I'm still in the arc command. To go back to a line, I would type line in right here. I could select line, or I could type L. I feel like it's still a little bit arc shaped from here to here. So I could actually I don't mind the actual natural arc like this. That looks pretty good. Then I'm back to maybe a line command. So what I do is I will use my keyboard commands in this. You can come down here and always use your point and click method, but the blue letter of this is what you can enter on the keyboard. So if I just say L, enter, it's back to a straight line here. So now I'm back to a straight line. I might pull this line down to here. Then I go A for arc. And then I go S for second point. And now I'm going to like make a little loop out of right here. Maybe from here to here kind of comes around. And then maybe it's back to an L for line. I'm going to just join it right here. So it's kind of a weird shape. But this is now all closed geometry. And it's probably going to look pretty close to the actual profile, even though I'm not like super accurate. It's just, remember, I've got kind of a big image. It's really pixely. Like when I actually turn this off, if I turn off my imagery, that's my polygon. It just looks like that. When I actually size this down to fit here, it's probably gonna look pretty good. The thing I'll have to be careful of is, will this imagery be too small for the 1/8 kerf allowance. I don't know until sometimes you could draw a lot and decide that this, this imagery needs changed a lot depending on how thick you're cutting the part. So, I would say to begin with, I would choose a pretty easy to draw image if you're going to use an image. And then, because that's what I've got to do is I'm just going to turn this thing on and just keep tracing this thing out. So what I've done here that you don't see is that I've actually just brought in an image of Benny the Bango, and I've sat here tediously and just pieced it all together. It doesn't, once you get a workflow going, it actually goes pretty fast. So if I come back into here, and because I'm pretty good with my polyline command, you get pretty good at where to target like the shape of it. Like if I'm pretty much going to use arcs and lines. So I would come back in here again and say, well, I'm going to go from here to here. Then I'm going to say A, enter, S, enter for second point. And I might, if you zoom in too close, it'll go crazy, but there's that maybe. And then maybe it's going to arc still a little bit. Then maybe let's go to line, L for line over here, L down. A for arc, S for second point. So my hands on it, I just gotta get, this is where I get just into like a repetitive habit or a repetitive workflow here. And then maybe I'll just go back to an L. Trace that there. This is modifiable, like it's a polygon, like so there are grips here. If you weren't totally happy how you saw or shaped it, you can grab these hot grips and kind of change them to match maybe the pixel geometry a little better. So it's like, your arcs and your lines have midpoints of the arcs. So you can kind of drag this and drop this if the flow doesn't quite look right. I can be like, well, I want that to be more there, and maybe I want that tooth a little bit bigger. And that's why even if you come back in and you realize that the plasma won't cut it, maybe you just got to pull it a little bit wider, or just keep track of that. So yeah, this, like I said, this lightning bolt will be really fast, pretty easy if I just choose polyline. Maybe I'll trace kind of the inside one. These are just lines, essentially. I just go from pixel to pixel. So I would definitely encourage you to pick easy geometry when you're first, if you're doing this. Don't pick something that's overly complicated for your first go around.
So you don't want to do like a Tool album cover.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, exactly. Can't even make sense out of those just looking at it,
Tool album cover.
They're always like wicked weird geometry. Yeah. Totally. Yeah, I'm gonna pick like the most complicated beer logo there is. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe keep it simple. The KISS method. Keep it
KISS
simple,
method.
stupid.
Right.
Yeah. Like the KISS method. Anyway, I just keep doing this, and that's so you can see that some geometry is really fast. I could pull up a circle command. Like to place a circle on here might be I kind of struggled with it last time, but like I might you could actually find the center of the circle if you remember how to bisect a circle, right? Like how to find center of a circle. Don't we just like draw a line across and a line across, and there's a way to find the center to know where the center of that circle. Oh yeah, there's some wicked awesome like mechanical drawing technique to find the center of this circle.
Wait, how do you do art on that? How do you?
Oh yeah. So I'll go back and do maybe I'll trace my eyeball here with an arc. So what I do is it's a polyline command, and it's just that I need to start it first. So you always have to kind of pick a point to start. You don't have the arc as a selection until you've at least started somewhere. So let's say I want to do this like arc, like right here. So maybe I'll start here, and then arc is on your command line. Yeah. So you can actually enter. I usually enter A for arc. A enter will put you into the arc command, and then I use second point a lot. So that like arc is a complicated command, so there's a lot of ways I can draw an arc. I for me and just tracing imagery, I found the second point worked pretty nicely because I can just pick a point. Like here's my arc, I feel like stretches from here to here. So here's maybe the midpoint, and then that second point kind of gets me there, halfway there. And then I can, and then that's over. That arc's over. Once I've like left clicked, picked second point, then I've like pick the midpoint. So I've actually, to create that arc, I've selected the start of it, the midpoint, and kind of the end. Now it's kind of like the arc command is starting over again, because like I said, polyline is a continuous command, hooking all geometry together. So if I want a second point again, I remember to hit S. And then maybe this is a slight arc from here to here. And then I need to hit S again for second point. So what I'm really doing is if I'm just in true like, curved geometry, I'm toggling back and forth between maybe S for second point. Yeah. something like this, and then maybe I go L for line from here to here. Yeah, this is the tedious nature of this. So Flash Cut can silhouette stuff. I just haven't played with Flash Cut a ton myself, but I think I could like load. This is the other thing I might experiment with, and I keep saying I'm going to do it, but I never drop into the lab to do it. But I would like to just load this into Flash Cut, and then I think even on the machine input, we can maybe go to the internet. I don't know if it's going to do that. So you might have to do it either here or on Marcus's computer or something. But you go to Flash Cut where you have access to the internet. I think you can bring in an image, and Flash Cut will kind of interpret the image and maybe give you some options on how it'll kind of give you these kind of options. I think like what are you keeping, what's going, or it'll kind of try to interpret that imagery as a silhouette. And I think then you still have to spend some time massaging that into be what you really want, but I do feel like some cutting equipment can do this kind of graphic art a little faster than CAD. But it's also a learning curve on what that software, how it operates. And Flash Cut's a little bit weirder than CAD for sure. Everything's just a little bit different. They're similar commands, but so what I'm saying is like I would like to experiment, hopefully before the end of the week, if I just bring this in, you bring in imagery, can you trace it? But the other thing you might want to do is just writing too. And I think that I didn't show the last group like writing and because and it's actually something Chuck showed me too, because I don't do a ton. I don't really, honestly, I don't do a ton of this kind of work. I do some a little bit here and there on the side, just for fun, just and for fun assignments. And like I said, for pumpkin templates, or I actually made this a template that I then painted on my sidewalk next to my house number in my house. So I actually have traced this before, and I've chosen what stays and what goes. And I made myself like a painting template that I was able just to spray paint these 4 colors, white, black, red, and blue. And I put that little image next to my house number on my curb. So that was kind of fun. So I do stuff like this every once in a while, but not like every day. And so, yeah. Yeah. So then what I would do here is, let's see, where would I go next? Yeah. Thank you. Oh, okay, got to tour another one. We've had quite a few today, huh? Actually, we've had quite a few tours today. Yeah. Cool. We have a few tours for today.
And quite a few tours today.
Yeah, we have. That's actually the third one, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Great.
We had some yesterday. Let's see. What was I at? So yeah, I have made this. I don't do a ton. Oh, but text. If you want to add text to this, that's another thing you could do. So, so you could go onto your construction layer or any layer. I could use the construction layer that I'm on. We have a text layer, but you don't really have to be on any specific. It could be visible. It could be visible object too. I think what I'm going to do though, to show you how to do text, is just maybe I'll bring it in on my construction layer too. Same thing I was tracing over there. What it would be is like on your home tab. I do realize that my tabs are a little bit different than yours. Maybe I may have hit my tabs. I need to show again. I am on my home tab though, and here on your annotation little palette on the main home tab, draw modified as text. So text kind of works as almost like it almost enters like a I feel like it's almost like a Word document sheet that it's adding to your area. So if you pick like multi-line text here, and it's going to give you this message because generally we would add text onto the print actually, because we'd want to make sure that we can read it. I think you can just say, okay, don't worry about this. This is an indicator that CAD is telling us if you're adding text, you want to maybe do it on your paper, not into model space. But for us, it's going to work. We actually want to do it on our model space. So I'll say, okay. And so, yeah. So what it does, what it wants to know is it wants to know kind of the size of your sheet or whatever. It wants to know, like, what it's asking me is to specify first corner where this text is going to show up. I'm just going to kind of do it like this is kind of like how I would trace text the same way that I'm tracing this image. So you can't just like apply the text and have it cut the text. You're going to have to trace it. So what I'm going to do is kind of build a sheet here, over here anywhere. So here's my text sheet. I don't know how big this has to be. That kind of shows you the size of the lettering. It's pretty small there. But we can drop this in. What it is kind of like a little, just like a Word sheet or a Google sheet here. it totally turns your ribbon menu into a kind of like a Google Doc or a ribbon menu that you'd see in Word, in Microsoft Word here. So you can change the font. I think on my, I have a few. These are so the first style is the maybe the font size that I'm writing with. So that's going to matter how big my text is. And then it's probably all I really need to know, and then maybe whether I want to center justify or left justify, because it is kind of like a Word document where I can choose to center justify or whatever. But I think the font is the biggest thing. It's pretty small font. I think my preloaded tab is going to be like 1/8 inch text, which is the standard text notation size for drawings. But if I like click this little arrow here, it shows me all the text sizes that are there. I don't think there's anything that's very big. Like if I look through these are just, some of these have been created, some of these are default, because it is a template that I've loaded a few different fonts into. But I think what you can do is I can write some font here. So if I just, if I wrote my last name or something, it's pretty common. People might want to customize with their last name. So I write my Z. If I highlight this, I can change the text size. This is the text size box right here. I think I can enter any number. I don't know how big this would be. This is 0.125. So if I did like 1-inch text, it might not load this. I may have to do this before I have something highlighted. Let me check this. If I put 1 in here, yes. As long as I don't have text highlighted, I think I can add a bunch of different text sizes here just by saying what's in here. Well, I might say even a 2-inch text. So now I have like a 1-inch and a 2-inch text. Now when I come in here and highlight my text that I've written, I can push it to a different size. That's pretty big. I can scale text as well, so I don't have to I could scale it here by choosing the text size or whatever, but I could also scale it with the scale command. Because once you say like I'm happy with that, it comes back to your home tab, and I can scale text just like an image I could. But let me go back into the text. So how you get back into the text, just double click on it, like double click, or maybe even just single click. Let me escape my command here. Double click in here. Maybe I'm crazy. There it is. Takes you a minute sometimes to get into that text box again. Just make sure that ribbon menu changed again. And you can change font too. So you have access. So this is just an Arial type font. It was what was maybe default, and ASME default is Arial, I think. So I can select my text and change the font. I think it has a bunch of preloaded fonts, which can be, customizable here. Something fancy, that's going to be hard to trace, pretty elaborate. So you can either keep it simple or get fancy if you were doing text. So what I'm gonna have to do is like, I can either trace this or you can do like a text edit maybe. So let me just pick something. I think I'll just leave mine as Arial here. So once I have this, you could go through here and trace this using the polyline command and have this as like cut out. Text is kind of hard as well because I can't just cut this profile out and leave that, right? The middle would drop out. So I would have to like hook this middle together to have it stay. So text is kind of hard to manipulate, just like imagery is. You have to kind of know what's going to stay, what's going to go, and adjust your lines accordingly. But I think Chuck showed me this because I don't do a lot of text, and I think maybe he does. He's like, oh yeah, you see like a text edit. So if I write in, and I don't know where this is on the ribbon menu actually. So not all commands, like AutoCAD has so many commands, not all of them have a ribbon menu icon where you can click and find it. But and the other difficult thing about CAD is you don't even know all the commands that are in there. But usually, if you know the first words that it starts with, you can start typing those, and the commands will show up. Like I'm in my model space, and if you typed anything, like if you typed like circle, here's the circle command coming up, plus some other like commands that start with circle. So a lot of people, like I said, a lot of people use CAD all the time. They'll use like the dialog box like this to enter commands a lot. L is for line, so then I hit L, line comes up first. Polyline might be, or I don't know, it was line, did it have polyline command as well? No, so this is like, when you're not in a command, anytime you hit a keyboard command, it's going to look for a command that might be associated with those letters. So text edit, I think is the one he showed me. TEXT, 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 I'll write it right. Text edit is the second text type command. Yeah.
That, so I have a light image right here, is there a way that I can make my cursor a different color so I don't lose it?
Oh, yeah, the cursor color can be changed. Yeah. So, where that is actually going to be in your A menu here. This A, drop this down. This is a really powerful, very hidden options dialog box right here. So I don't think I've even discussed it all with you guys because we're not getting into the inner workings of this too much. But options here brings up this other dialog box that has a bunch of tabs across it. And these are all like programmable things that I can do. These are how I can like customize my a lot of stuff with mine. So I think cursor colors on here. I'm just gonna have to dig for it a little bit. I actually think it's in colors actually here. So I'm on the display tab. And I'm like colors. Is there a quick command that you're using up there? Is that what you're telling me? Did you change it, Warren? Or not? You haven't changed it yet, no?
No.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So this is where I'm going to change it. There's going to be multiple ways to find out where to change this if you want to. But where I'm at is in that. I'll just backtrack myself a little bit here. The options to this. I'm on the display tab.
Yeah.
Here's colors.
Okay.
I can change the colors of everything. I can change the colors of my background. I can do a lot of customization here. Crosshair is the one that you're asking for. Its default is white. If you want to change this to, yeah, something that might show up, there's your option right there. So if I chose yellow and I said apply and close, I say apply or just say okay, there's my yellow crosshair. Your computers will probably default and go back. If you had done this on your home computer, it'll always stay like this probably until you would go to change it. So I'm going to go back to my white options, display, colors, crosshairs. I'm gonna go back to just default white. Yeah. Apply and close. I think I'm gonna say okay. Back to white. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that's good question. Text edit though is what I want to do. Text edit T. Text T. This is the last thing I want to do. I didn't show the second group or the first group this. Select or an annotation object is what it says. So I'm in text edit command now. I typed in text edit. It came up. I picked it from the drop down list. I'm going to select everything. I'm going to do a window crossing to select all of this. I think maybe am I? I don't know. Do I have to be in here to do my text edits? I can't remember. I don't do this. That's why. Is it text explode? It could be text explode. Is it explode text? Maybe that's what it is. I thought it was just text edit. No, I don't think it's text edit. I think it's a different command. Text something. Let me look through all the text. These are all the different commands that start with text. Text editor, text fit. Explode text. I think it's this one, maybe. Explode text. Will this window select? I want to say this will explode for me somehow. And then it will actually draw all the profile lines for me if I do my text explode. I can't remember how to do it though. I'll look it up though. Let me see. That's the last thing I want to show you was just how to trace text, but maybe how this could do it kind of fast. So let me do a little bit of searching here. And then you'd want to save this whenever you're done. Definitely save your DWG, save it, email it to yourself so you have a copy so you don't any work you've done, you don't lose. Just stop my share for a minute. I'm going to stop my video here, but I'm going to continue to poke around here a little bit, see if I can figure out my text edit now that I've got my text written.
So you do all your drawing and stuff, and then you get it centered on your grinder holder where you want it. And
Yeah.
then you would save it as a DXF again.
For sure, exactly right. You're exactly right. So I'm going to go through and do all this, scale it so it fits. I'm going to move it over here, probably use a move command. I might draw some construction geometry to be able to snap to where I want it centered. Like if I turn on my construction layer, I'll keep recording this a little bit here. I haven't turned off my recording yet, I don't think. No. Yeah, so I would. It's just like if I wanted to move this one into position, I'll show you how I would do this. Yeah, once I've drawn it, traced it, and even if this wasn't size correct, I think it is size pretty close. Might just turn those off. It would just be like a move command. I'm going to move this thing. Once I've drawn it and traced it however I want it, maybe I'll move by some easy point to grab. I'm grabbing by the center of the face here. I'm going to bring this up here. And I could like target some geometry. I could go in and turn on like a construction layer maybe. My construction layer has like some center lines. It has for sure has a vertical center line I can snap to. And then I can decide like maybe if I need another horizontal center line of where I want to place this actually in here.
Okay.
But yeah, then I would actually click and drop that. And of course, I would have done the work to like make sure these are all joined and flows good. So like, yeah, essentially if you just drag and drop that, I think I did kind of size this to fit pretty well in here somewhere. I haven't tried the eye shape stuff yet to customize it at all, but yeah, that's spinning the bangles centered up on there. That thing, and I have verified that this will cut. Anyway, yeah, that's a good question. And then I would definitely, I would actually, go to save this as my DXFs and strip it all down or whatever. Yep, strip it all down like that DXF. And then save it. And then what I'd really like you to do is if you go back to your emails and you've done some customization work or whatever, if you're happy with yours, you can just drag and drop it into that shareable folder that I have. And then I can start verifying if things are looking okay or if I see some errors that I need to fix. But so let me stop this and then I'll do a little exploring on my text.